Hi guys, it's Amy. Welcome to my channel, Strength Reverse. Thank you so much for joining me here. Today I'm going to do a VR to Lady Night Avalon. Her name is Maria, and she did one of these fun hashtags where you kind of interview yourself, and I love those. And it is called hashtag shopping for tarot. So before I start, I'm in my workout clothes because I usually don't work out on the weekends. I'll go walking or something, but I go to Orange Theory and it is Hell Week. And Michael and I have a goal of we have to finish 5 classes because we want the t-shirt. Because we'll do anything for a free t-shirt, right? Except it's not really free because I have to pay for extra classes. But whatever, it's worth it. It glows in the dark this year. So here's my t-shirt from last year. So I want one for 2019. And if you see this, do not be alarmed. I'm getting a tattoo removed. This is probably the 5th treatment out of maybe 6. I got this done a couple days ago. I don't have it numbed or anything. It's sort of painful, but anyway, I'm sure people will ask me about it, which is one of the reasons why I'm getting it removed, because I'm tired of talking about it. I'll get a new one somewhere else. Anyway, I had a really fun evening last night because I did my tarot meetup, Second Tarot for Charity, which we do at one of our local coffee shops. And I'll tell you more about that, but I always have really good readings there. And I was there for a couple of hours, but I only gave 3 readings, but they were fabulous. So I'm kind of on a high from, tarot reading. Okay, so these are 10 questions about how you acquire new tarot decks, etc. And several of them I know I kind of talked about in other videos, so I think I'm going to shamelessly self-promote with like links to other videos. You should click on them. Okay, number 1, what was the last deck you bought and why that one? The last deck I bought was at the beginning of the summer, and I just did a video on this one. And this is the Tarot of the Zirkus Magi, this deck. I love it. I'm reading the big guidebook now. The guidebook is so well written. Anyway, that's the one I bought. Why that one? Because I had been looking at it for 3 years. Which brings me to the next one, number 2. What's the decision-making process when buying a new deck? Well, you guys know I don't really collect a whole lot of decks, and so before I buy a new deck, unless it's, used and on sale and super cheap, if it's a full price deck, I sit with it for quite a while, like months, maybe. This one I sat with for a few years just thinking about it. And the reason is because I have had so many experiences where my eyes were bigger than my stomach, and I bought a deck that looked cool when I first saw it, and then, I got it home and it was like, I mean, it's cool, but, all decks look really cool and interesting the first time you see them. So I have to, see if it is still in the back of my mind, if it's still calling to me. And I might stop by there's one bookstore that's like a local bookstore, or I might go by the website many, many times and see if it's still as intriguing as it first was. Number 3, deal breakers in decks that would keep you from buying it. I don't know. I mean, everyone has such individual taste. For me, I don't like small decks. I like standard tarot card size or bigger because I like it to be a little special and different than just regular playing cards. I do not like round decks. For some reason, they really irk me. So I would not buy a round deck, probably even if the pictures were really beautiful. I don't like to buy tarot decks that have no male figures in them or that are 100% animals. I just feel like I like a good balance of different energies, and when there are quote-unquote feminist decks or decks that only feature women to me, there's something missing, so to speak. Also, I do not like decks where the women are hypersexualized. This is so-and-so's Doreen Virtue's Healing with the Fairies Oracle cards. And I will put another link to a video where I discussed decks I don't use. And this is one of them. I got it super cheap clearance. And as you can see, every fairy is white, blonde, 20, and oversexed. And had like 3 hours of hair and makeup. Not sure what that has to do with letting go. Positive expressions apparently must be nude. Self-reliance, okay. This reminds me of like a breast exam commercial or like a commercial for a douche or something. So I don't like that because while they might be pretty to look at, I think that's the point, is it's objectifying women. Number 4, Little White Book or Big Guidebook. Usually neither. If it's just the generic Little White Book, that gets like tossed. I probably won't even look at it. The big guidebooks have to offer something more than just the standard traditional explanation of each card. I don't have it right next to me, but the guidebook for the Zirkus Magi Tarot is so good. It explains so much. It explains these cards in particular and why he chose this imagery and where the imagery came from. And so I just like the way he explains the cards. And so it's pretty special, and I'm definitely reading that one. So also, you know, if the deck veers away from the standard 4 suits or the court cards are named something unique, I kind of want an explanation. And so then I will read the guidebook. Number 5, new deck rituals. I made a video about this. I don't have rituals so much as routines. When I get a new deck, I for sure smudge it. I will usually put it out under the full moon and charge it that way, or even just, usually under the moon, I'll put it in my car on the dashboard. Otherwise, I have my back porch is screened in, and I'll just put it out there just even during the day. I just feel like it does something to the deck. And then I shuffle it a lot before I read with it. But I don't have any hard and fast rituals. It's just kind of a process that I go through. Number 6, have you ever been disappointed after getting a deck because it looked or felt different than expected? Yes. This handle deck, someone did a reading, a pretty profound reading with this deck. It was during a very difficult time in my life, and it was just very meaningful, and I loved the deck. There's even a video about it. Maybe I'll link it. I loved the deck, and I went out and bought it, and it just was confusing, and it seemed dark, and it had a completely different vibe. And there's one card that freaks me out in this deck, which I explained in that video. Also, the Mystic Dreamer Tarot. I think this is all female like figures, but I didn't know that. As you can see, it's really bordery, and I liked it when I first got it, but then I read someone saying that they wish the borders were smaller because they can barely see the images, that the images are really tiny, and it's hard to see the detail. And that put something in my brain where I thought, oh my gosh, you're right. And so I've just avoided this deck a little bit. No, that's a dude. I don't know. They're pretty androgynous, so it doesn't matter, but it's a very pretty deck. Number 7, do you interview your decks? I don't as a rule interview my decks. I don't interview them right away. I work with them for a while, and sometimes I get an inkling that this deck has a certain personality. And I have interviewed several of my decks, but not all of them. Number 8, do you ever buy decks for a specific purpose and use it only for that? I don't use specific decks for specific kinds of questions, but I did buy the universal weight for a specific purpose, and that was as a straight up working deck. And I bought it to use at the medieval fair, which is our Renaissance festival, because it gets really, there are dirt paths and dust gets kicked up and your cards get kind of really dusty. Also, I wanted a more traditional, like Rider-Waite, because I think a lot of people, especially who haven't gotten tarot card readings before, like to see those traditional cards that they would imagine are in a tarot deck. And I can't take the Rider-Waite, the plaid back. I can't do it. It's so bad. It was almost like embarrassing. You know, like I would love to have been at that meeting where someone was like, how about this one? And everyone said, yeah, that's great. What was going on there? What was the train of thought? So I wanted a little more of a fortune tellery looking back, even though I don't consider myself a fortune teller. Number 9, do you differentiate between decks you buy for yourself and those you would use for others? I buy all of my decks for myself, and only after using them for a while do I decide whether this is a deck I use with other people. I definitely have go-to decks that most of them are totally weight-based that I use when I read for other people, like the Radiant Wise Spirit and this Universal Weight, and a couple of other decks that I use with other people. There are only 2 decks that really I keep just for me. And that just came about organically. For example, my Robin Wood deck used to be my go-to working deck, and now more and more I don't like, when I read for other people, I usually have them shuffle or choose a card, and I don't like people to touch that deck. I like it less and less as time goes on. It's almost like it's gone into semi-retirement, like I only want to read for you now. I just, you know, it's my first deck, and it just has all that energy in it, and it's pretty special, and so I don't usually use it to read for other people. Number 10. What is one thing you wish tarot deck creators would do more of, or stop doing? I'm sure a lot of people might say borders. Borders don't usually get my attention unless they're super, like, way too big. I do agree with Lady Night Avalon when she said we don't need the 5 languages because it takes up a lot of space. So I guess I could do without oversized borders. I'd rather have the picture enlarged. But one thing is that if you have a deck that does not follow the traditional Rider-Waite symbolism, I want an explanation. If you call the suits, you know, if pentacles are balloons, I want an explanation of your train of thought and why that is, so that I can understand, because it helps me connect with the cards and understand that deck more. If you don't use Page Knight Queen King, then I want to know why. I want to know why you came up with this image for this card. And I think very few decks really do that. And I think something's lost when I don't know what the artist, I don't need to know your specific interpretation, but why did you pick this image to represent this card? What did that say to you? I think that's invaluable. I would love to have I have a couple of decks specifically that I would love to hear why this looks like that. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to go to do this incredibly difficult workout. I'm kind of nervous because I'm extremely sore from the last workout. So it'll be challenging. And I'm not used to working out this early in the day. I usually work out in the evening. So I hope your Halloween season is going well. And make sure you like or subscribe. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you later.